You stole my past, shattered my present, and tried to erase my future. But you forgot one thing: blood remembers. And my family were stronger than your greed. After a dangerous rescue, billionaire Vincent Blackwell is thrust into a whirlwind of family secrets, betrayal, and revenge as he discovers his long-lost children are alive. Together, they must confront a deadly foe who's tried to destroy them, seeking justice and a chance at a reunited future. But we start the video. Let us know where you're watching this video, and if you like this story, don't forget to follow Story Store, and please share your thoughts about this story in comment section. Rain poured down in torrents, drenching the dark alley where two figures huddled, hidden behind a stack of broken crates. Leah's heart raced as she watched the black SUV skid to a halt, its tires splashing through murky puddles. She tightened her grip on Leo's arm, her twin brother's face pale but determined. "Do you see him?" Leo whispered, his voice barely audible over the downpour. "There." Leah pointed as a man stumbled out of the car, clutching his side, blood seeping through his expensive suit. 4 men surrounded him, their faces shadowed by hoods. One of them advanced, brandishing a knife, his voice low and menacing. Vincent Blackwell, the billionaire they'd only heard about in whispers, was cornered. But the look in his eyes was fierce, defiant even in the face of death. Leah's chest tightened. This was their chance. Their one chance to change everything. "We can't just watch." Before Leo could protest, Leah bolted out from their hiding spot, her small frame moving fast and low. She kicked a metal can, sending it clattering across the alley. The noise echoed, momentarily distracting the attackers. "Hey!" Leo shouted, joining his sister's side. "Over here!" Confused, the men turned, their momentary hesitation giving Vincent the opening he needed. With a swift punch, he knocked the knife from one attacker's hand and lunged for the exit. Leah grabbed his arm, guiding him down the narrow alleyway as Leo threw a broken crate at their pursuers. "Come on," Leah urged, pulling Vincent with surprising strength for someone so small. "This way." They ducked into a hidden passage behind an abandoned building, the shadows swallowing them as the attackers' shouts grew distant. For a moment all was silent except for their ragged breathing and the rhythmic beat of the rain. Vincent leaned against the wall, his face pale as he clutched his wound. Why did you help me?" Leah's eyes flicked to Leo, who nodded. "We need a favor." The storm continued to rage outside the crumbling shelter they had retreated to. The air was damp and cold, but Leah's eyes were fiery with purpose. "We saved you. Now you owe us." Vincent's brows knitted together. Despite his injury, his gaze remained sharp, calculating. "And what do you want from me? Money?" Leo shook his head. "We want you to pretend to be our father, just for one day." A stunned silence filled the room. Vincent's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. "Why?" Leah's fingers trembled as she pulled out an old, worn photograph from her pocket. She hesitated before handing it over. "Because our mother believes he's coming back, but he never does." Vincent's breath caught in his throat. The woman in the photograph looked hauntingly familiar. Her eyes, her smile. He swallowed hard, his hands shaking. Who is this?" "Our mom," Leah whispered, her voice fragile. "She doesn't remember much, but she keeps this photo close, waiting for him. If you could just pretend, maybe she'll finally let go." A chill ran down Vincent's spine. He traced the woman's face with his thumb, his mind racing. It couldn't be, but the resemblance was uncanny. His heart thudded in his chest as he remembered the last time he had seen that face. On the day she disappeared. His wife. The hospital room was bleak, the walls washed in a dull shade of gray. Leah and Leo stood outside, peeking through the small window as Vincent entered the room. Their mother sat by the window, her gaze distant, lost in a world only she could see. Vincent's steps were hesitant, his heart pounding. She looked just as he remembered, her hair falling in soft waves around her delicate face, but her eyes were vacant, devoid of recognition as they landed on him. "Margaret," his voice cracked, emotion breaking through his composed demeanor. She blinked, her head tilting slightly. Do I know you?" Vincent forced a smile, his heart shattering. "Yes, my love, it's me. I've come back." For a moment, something flickered in her eyes, a glimmer of memory. But then it was gone, replaced by confusion. "You're my husband?" "Yes," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. "I'm here now. I won't leave you again." Outside, Leah's fingers gripped Leo's sleeve tightly, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Do you think she remembers?" "I don't know," Leo whispered, his voice hollow. "But I hope this helps." Hours passed, and Vincent stayed by her side, weaving a story of a life they once shared. His heart shattered with each word, each memory he recounted, praying it would bring her back to him. Then she asked, "Do you remember our children?" Vincent's breath hitched. "Our children?" She nodded, her fingers absently tracing the edge of the blanket. "Twins. I used to dream of them. 2 little faces, so much like yours." His heart stopped. His gaze snapped to the window, where Leah and Leo stood watching. His hands trembled as he realized the truth. The twins, they weren't pretending. They were his. Just then, Leah's fingers loosened, and the photograph slipped from her grip, fluttering to the ground. It was the same photo Vincent had kept by his bedside for years. The same photo he thought he'd never see again. His eyes widened, his body frozen as memories flooded back, her laughter, her touch, the day she told him she was pregnant, the accident, the disappearance, the pain of losing them. He looked at Leah and Leo, truly seeing them for the first time. Their eyes mirrored his, the shape of their faces so familiar it hurt. His voice broke as he whispered, "My God, they're mine." Vincent's knees felt weak as he stared at the twins through the window. The truth was undeniable, etched in their faces, his nose, his eyes. He took a shaky breath, his heart pounding. These were his children. The children he had mourned, believed lost forever. Inside the room, Margaret's gaze drifted to the rain-streaked window, her expression distant. "They visit me often, you know, 2 angels. They watch over me." Her voice was soft, laced with melancholy. "But they never come in. I always wonder why." Vincent swallowed the lump in his throat. "Maybe they were waiting for me." His eyes flicked to Leah and Leo, standing so close yet feeling so far. How could he tell them? Would they even believe him? He took a step towards the door, hesitating. But then the door creaked open and Leah stepped inside, her gaze wary but curious. Is she feeling better?" Vincent's voice was hoarse. "Yes, she's resting now." His eyes softened. Leo. Leo appeared behind his sister, his posture guarded. "We should go. The doctors said visiting hours are almost over." Before Vincent could respond, Margaret's voice broke through the silence. "My angels, don't go." Her eyes fluttered open, her gaze drifting towards the twins. "Stay, just a little longer." Leah's eyes widened, glancing at Vincent. "Did she just—" Vincent nodded, tears shining in his eyes. "She remembers you, even if she doesn't fully understand why." A tear slipped down Leah's cheek, and she took a tentative step closer to her mother. "Mom, We're here. We've always been here." Margaret's lips curled into a faint smile, her eyes closing as she drifted into sleep. Outside, the rain began to let up, a ray of light piercing through the clouds. Vincent watched them, his heart aching. He had missed so much, their first words, their first steps, everything. But he was here now, and he wouldn't leave them again. The next morning, Vincent found Leah and Leo waiting for him outside the hospital, their faces somber. Leah held out the photograph, her fingers trembling. "Why, do you have this?" Vincent took a deep breath, his fingers brushing the worn edges. "I've had this photo for years. It was the last picture we took before she disappeared." His voice broke. "I thought I lost all of you." Leo's eyes narrowed, suspicion flickering in his gaze. "You're saying you're our father?" "Yes." Vincent's voice was firm, his eyes pleading. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I searched for years, but I never found any trace of her. I thought—" He choked on the words, his shoulders shaking. "I thought you were gone." Leah's breath caught, her eyes wide. We never knew. She never talked about him. About you." Her voice wavered. She just kept waiting. Vincent's fists clenched, anger burning in his chest. "It was no accident," he whispered, his voice deadly. "Someone did this to us, to her. They wanted us dead." His gaze hardened. "And they almost succeeded." Leo's eyes flashed with anger. Who would do that?" Vincent looked at his children, his jaw set. "Someone who wanted everything I had. Someone who tried to destroy our family. But they failed. And now, they're going to pay." Leah shivered at the cold determination in his voice, but a spark of hope ignited in her heart. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel so alone. They were a family, and together they would find the truth. Vincent stood before the sprawling estate that once felt like home. Now it was a place of shattered dreams and painful memories. His jaw tightened as he stepped through the grand entrance, his mind swirling with questions. Who would want to destroy his family? And why? Leah and Leo trailed behind, their faces pale but resolute. This was more than just his battle. It was theirs too. Inside, Vincent's loyal butler, Thomas, greeted them with a bow, his eyes widening at the sight of the twins. "Sir, they look just like—" "I know," Vincent interrupted, his voice heavy. "They're mine. They survived." Thomas's eyes filled with tears. "All these years. I never stopped hoping." He glanced around, his voice dropping to a whisper. "But you must be careful. Not everyone in this house is loyal to you." Vincent's fists clenched. "I need names, Thomas. Who can I trust?" The old man's face darkened. "The board members. Some were too eager to take your place after the accident, and Alexander, he's been too close to your business, too involved in matters he shouldn't be." Vincent's heart sank. Alexander Bennett, his childhood friend, his business partner, his most trusted ally. Could it be? No, it couldn't. But the pieces were falling into place. Leah's eyes narrowed. "He's the one, isn't he? The man who tried to hurt us, to take everything from you." Vincent's jaw tightened, his voice cold. "Yes, and now he's going to pay." Vincent confronted Alexander at his penthouse, the city lights flickering outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. Alexander welcomed him with a wide smile, his arms outstretched. "Vincent, you're back, and with children. I didn't know." "Cut the act," Vincent growled, stepping closer, his eyes blazing. "I know what you did. You tried to kill my wife, my children. You destroyed my family." Alexander's smile faltered, his eyes turning cold. "You were always too sentimental, Vincent. That was your weakness." He leaned back against his desk, his expression mocking. "Everything you had, it should have been mine, the company, the wealth, the respect. But you always stood in my way." Vincent's fists trembled. "You were my friend. I trusted you, and you betrayed me." Alexander shrugged. "Trust is for fools. I built your empire behind the scenes. I did the dirty work, made the hard choices. And what did I get in return? Nothing." His eyes darkened. "So, I took what was rightfully mine." Leah stepped forward, her eyes blazing with fury. "You destroyed our lives? For greed?" Alexander's gaze flicked to her, his expression cold. "Collateral damage. Nothing personal, kid." Vincent's rage erupted. "You took my wife's memories. You stole my children's childhood, and you think you can get away with it?" Alexander's smile returned, sly and taunting. "I already did." He pressed a button on his desk, and the room filled with armed guards. "This is where your story ends, Vincent." But Vincent was ready. "Not today." He turned to Leah and Leo. "Run, I'll handle this." "No," Leo said, his voice firm. "We're in this together." A fierce pride swelled in Vincent's chest. His children were braver than he could have ever imagined. "Then let's end this. As a family." The room erupted in chaos. Guards charged at them, weapons drawn. Vincent fought with the ferocity of a man who had lost everything and was determined to take it back. Leah and Leo moved with agility, their small frames dodging the attackers with ease. Vincent knocked one guard unconscious, his eyes never leaving Alexander. "You took everything from me. I'll make sure you never hurt my family again." Alexander laughed, his face contorted with madness. "You'll never win. I control everything, your company, your assets, even the police." He aimed a gun at Vincent. "Goodbye, old friend." A shot echoed through the room, but Vincent stood unharmed. Alexander's eyes widened in shock before he collapsed, clutching his shoulder. Behind him, Thomas stood with a smoking gun, his hand steady. "Not today, sir, not today." Vincent's shoulders sagged with relief. "Thomas, you saved us." The butler nodded, his eyes fierce. "I served your family my whole life. I wasn't about to let it end like this." Police sirens wailed outside as the authorities swarmed in, arresting Alexander and his men. Vincent turned to his children, his heart swelling with love and pride. "It's over. We're safe now." Leah's eyes shimmered with tears. "Does that mean we can finally be a family?" Vincent's voice broke as he pulled them into his arms. "Yes, from now on, we're together. Always." Days later, Vincent brought Leah and Leo back to the hospital. Margaret's eyes lit up as she saw them, her face softening. "You're back, my angels." Vincent knelt by her side, his fingers brushing her hair. "I'm here too, Margaret. I found you. I found them, our children." Her eyes widened, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Vincent, I remember. The accident, the fear. I was trying to protect them." She broke down, her body trembling. I thought I lost you all." Vincent held her close, his own tears falling. "We're here, we're safe, and we're never leaving each other again." Leah and Leo joined them, their arms wrapping around their parents. For the first time, they felt whole, complete. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, bathing the room in golden light. Vincent looked at his family, his heart overflowing with love and gratitude. They had been broken, shattered by betrayal and loss. But they had found each other again, they had found the truth. And together, they would face whatever the future held. They were a family, and nothing would ever tear them apart again.